Hey everyone, we're live and up on air. I'm Marco, I'm one of the founders and the CEO of the Firehose project, and I'm happy to run you guys through our info session about our software engineering program, run you through that. So let's first before we dive in, I want to give you a little bit of an overview, all the things that we're going to cover, and let you know that I want to answer all of you guys' questions. I already received a few via email. If you have more, feel free, email them to me. You guys should have all received an email from me, or put them in the chat below the Hangout here, Hangout on Air on the YouTube page. Let's dive in. What are we going to talk about? Right. First of all, I want to cover why are we doing this? Why are we teaching software engineering? Why is this a skill? Is that valuable? What can I do with that skill? Why are we doing this? Right. And then I want to dive into a little bit more and talk about our introduction course. Many of you who are watching right now, and I can see you all guys coming in, are like in our intro course right now, coding with us, getting the support, and I want to talk about that a little bit. And I'll talk about the full program, run you through all the web applications that we're building in detail, talk about the algorithms, why that matters, and talk about the Agile team project a little bit as well, right? And talk about JavaScript, what we're doing there, and how that really helps you get you where you need to be. And then we also want to talk about a little about job support, how what we're teaching actually rolls into what you need in the real world, and how that helps you have the skills you need to actually land a job, and how we support there. And then lastly, I always answer a few questions. As I said, I received already a few. If you have some more, feel free to email them to me. I'm actually going to go at the end into my inbox and look what other questions I received. Okay, let's jump right in and talk about why are we doing this. So first of all, software engineering, web development is an extremely in-demand profession, right? There's over 1 million jobs out there that are unfilled, and this is by big tech companies, small businesses, tons of freelance opportunities, right? So taking those skills, a lot of people call them the 21st century skills, of knowing how to code, of how to build, of how to produce something that helps other people, and get that into a lot of people's hands easily through the internet is something that's really valuable. And that's what people pay for. This is what people want, and that's why this is such an in-demand profession. And then to me, that's only one part. The other part that I think is really important, a lot of people overlook, that it's extremely gratifying and also powerful to build something and get it into a lot of people's hands, right? Make their lives better. Be it building something on the education space, what we're doing with our online learning platform, where we bring thousands and thousands of people together from around the world to code together and learn and connect with mentors and get the skills. Or be it something like a payment processing company like Stripe or Square or anything like that, right? It's really powerful to be in that driving seat as a developer, as an engineer, and build something that helps a lot of people. Now, let's dive in and talk about our program in more details. First, we have the intro course. Most of you guys who are watching are already in that. If you have not signed up for our intro course, go right now to thefirehoseproject.com and sign up, right? I promise you won't regret it. We teach you how to build an HTML and CSS page. We actually just pushed an upgrade to our intro course about a few hours ago. So if you haven't checked that, you should definitely check out on that. We'll show you how to build an entire portfolio page, not only highlighting your code, but highlighting you as a developer, and then also like potential apps that you're going to build and highlight your code, which is something that's really important for potential employees when they look at. They want to know, what kind of code can you write? Put the simple code in there that you built during the intro course, but later on we actually highlight some of the more complicated algorithms that you're going to build with us in the full program. Now, once you're done with the intro course, we have a lot of support there. If you get stuck, you can ask a question, we help you out. And then we also want to see your code. So we ask you to submit your code so we can review it, right? Some of you already are halfway through or towards the end. You guys already received the thumbs up on your code. Maybe you've gotten some feedback on how to refactor, how to improve your code. So we've done that. Once we've given you the thumbs up on all your coding challenges in intro course, we officially accept you into the full program. At that point, you can choose your starting date. We start new students every Monday, and dive in and really accelerate your coding. Now, let's talk about the full program. What are we doing here, right? Full program is a mix of, we're building web applications on one side, and we're solving algorithms and learning how to do that deep kind of technical software engineering coding on the other side. And these two paths kind of converge at the end when we have you join an agile team project where we build an advanced and complex web application the same way as it is done in the real world. Meaning the same way as I would build it together with my team, the same way as any of our mentors who are all senior developers would do it with their team, maybe at their company. So let's talk about the web applications and then the algorithms for second. So the web applications that we're building, right? When you jump in, we first need to install a professional web development environment on your computer. We have an automated script. Shouldn't be a problem. Should take you 45 minutes. You basically have the same thing running that any developer has running on their machine. And yes, that works on Mac and Windows equally well. So don't have to worry about, should I buy a Mac? Should I buy a PC? What's good there? Works on both. We set that up so it's equally good. Now, what are we building? First up, we're building something pretty simple. We call it code generator. We use something that tells you when you should start learning how to code, but you can make it about anything, right? We're basically having a visitor to our app enter a quote in a field, store it in the database, and randomly pull those out and show them on the screen. It's pretty simple. We make it mobile first, so it looks good on tablets and iPhones and Android, right? And also good on desktop, right? Well, that's something that's like your first web application that gets you into the groove of building web applications. You understand how all the different pieces of a web application, like the model, the view, the control, all these technical terms, your database, how that works together, how the Rails framework works, and how to write your first few lines of Ruby code inside of a web application framework. Then we move on and crank up the level of difficulty. We build a Yelp clone. And what that means is we're building a location-based app where we can actually get pins on a map. We do that by integrating with several APIs. One of them is the Google Map API. That means we then can take a user's address, translate that into latitude and longitude coordinates, and get the pin on the map, right? And you can make any kind of customization to that app, which is what a lot of our students are doing. So for example, we, as an example, say like, oh, let's go with pizza places. We like pizza, but a lot of our students actually go with the best climbing spots, yoga gyms, other type of restaurants, some taco restaurants, right? Best study places at the university, in the library, all these different nooks, and they map that on a map. And then we have star ratings that we're building, we have user comments, we have automated email notifications. So if somebody leaves a comment or gives a star rating on a certain place, the owner of that place, be it you, be it somebody else who entered that place, for the study nook, for the pizza place, for the rock climbing spot, gets an automated email notification saying like, hey, somebody just did something. We build a user dashboard, we have user login, log out, user registration, to have a fully functional web application. Again, we make it mobile first, responsive, so it looks good on all devices. Now, we move on and build something more complex. And what we're building next is a two-sided marketplace. When I say two-sided, what we do in our example, we have educators, teachers on one side, and students on the other side. These students can come to the platform, choose on a variety of courses, and then pay the instructors money. And that gets pretty complicated because if I say pay, we need to think about credit card and debit card processing, payment processing. How does that flow through the platform? We need to think about how we're integrating with an API that we're using for payment processing, which is the Stripe API. We do think about who can access which content based on what they pay. How does the money flow through our platform? You can already tell how it gets a level more difficult than what we built before with the Google Map API integration, right? So that application, two-sided marketplace, is what we're building next. Now, we want to keep the learning curve steep and make sure you're getting more and more towards being ready to join an agile team and being actually ready to build something more complex than what we talked about now. One key topic that we haven't covered up until now is test-driven development, right? That point I always want to zoom out and talk about what test-driven development is. Test-driven development or software testing is basically us as developers writing automated tests that make sure that our features are not broken, right? So for example, you guys all encountered that when you surf the web. You're looking at a website, a web application, you click on a button and it doesn't work, you get a weird error message and something is wrong. That's oftentimes that means that the feature is broken. So what testing is for is anytime we make an addition to our web application, we want to make sure that an automated test is running that clicks on all the buttons, the thousands of buttons that we have, make sure all the pages are working properly. Every time we build something, we write additional tests to make sure that nothing is broken for this particular feature and all the other features previously where we can run the tests. Test-driven development puts that one step ahead. We're basically running a test first without having the feature yet. Running the test, it will fail because it's like, I can't do any testing here. There's nothing really there. Then we're building a feature and our test will pass. That's kind of the industry standard, and we get you there. We'll build a fully functional web application with that test-driven development in mind. First, we explain how software testing works, and then we go into test-driven development. For all you guys who may be a little bit advanced or really up, we're using RSpec as the tool here, that's the industry standard, to do test-driven development and help us with that. Now, you've built that with one more app, which is our pure JavaScript app. By that time, you know Ruby pretty well already, and I'll talk about the algorithms that teach you that a lot in detail. But we're building a JavaScript app from scratch. We're starting with basically a blank canvas, and then we're writing one line of JavaScript after another to build a to-do app. It's pretty simple, drag and drop interface, but it's something that is really important for you as developers to know is how to write and read and build something in just pure JavaScript without any help from another framework. And the reason we're doing that so late is because Ruby gives you the foundation, the fundamentals of understanding a programming language, understanding object-oriented programming, understanding how logic works, understanding how to build something complex and then run it and debug your code and understand what your code is doing. And at that point, when you choose the end of the program, we add JavaScript on top. And we found that the learning curve is a lot faster here. It stays steep, but it's a lot faster, the progression of each of our students. If we first teach Ruby, because that reads really well, just like English almost, and the error messages are easier to understand. And then the progress that you're making and the self-confidence you're gaining while you keep building is a lot more on a fast track than if you start out with JavaScript. So Ruby first, then JavaScript. Really noticed like a huge improvement in our students, how much you could absorb and how much they could learn and what they could build and how much impact they could bring. Now, this is all the web application side. We also have the algorithms and the data structure side, and that's equally important because down the line in the real world, you're going to get paid for solving complex technical problems. Building a Yelp clone or building a two-sided marketplace is fairly complicated, especially when you start out. But we need to bridge the gap and get to a lot more algorithmic knowledge and logic knowledge on how to actually write real Ruby code. Because those two skills combined, building web applications and making something more complex that we can integrate into it, that's where the real fun starts. And that's also where the real challenge is. So basically what we're doing is we're teaching you algorithms. We start out with some simple algorithms, simple coding challenges. If you're already in the intro course, you know what we mean, like the foobar challenge, the ordinal challenge, temperature conversion script, these short scripts. And we layer a level of difficulty onto each of them. Until the end, we have like some of the most complex algorithms there are, like search algorithms, right? Depth first, breadth search, like traditional computer science algorithms that help you for the technical interview process if you want to switch careers. So that not only prepares you from week 2 in our program, which is when we start you in parallel to the web applications, building and learning and understanding those algorithms, but it also helps you like the different kind of thinking, like solidifies your Ruby coding knowledge. That also helps you with JavaScript later on, but it also helps you to build something that's more complex than a simple app like a two-sided marketplace. And all of that kind of converges, like I said earlier, when we start you on an agile team project. Now, first of all, let's take a step back. Why are we having all of our students go through 8 weeks of an agile team project where we have a senior developer who's not your mentor run on top of your mentorship sessions? You get another mentor that manages your team of 4 or 5 students, right? So why are we doing that? The reason we're doing that is because in the real world, the best products are built, the best web applications are built by teams, right? By amazing teams. And you want to know how to be part of such a team as early as possible. And we found right at that point when you solved our algorithmic challenges and build your first like 4 or 5 web application is that perfect time to have you join a team and actually learn that development workflow like it is done in the real world. The advantages that has when you are applying for a job are like tremendous, because now you can tell the hiring manager, you can show them on your portfolio page in an email precisely, here's how I work together as a team, and here's how you can integrate me into your team, right? So we're thinking about high impact employee from day one. That is you after you know how to work together with a team. And that's why we're doing it. It's a lot of work on our side, organization, time zones, all of that, having an extra mentor, but it's well worth it for your education. So what happens in that Agile team project, right? We're basically building a chess game inside of a Rails application. Now, some people might be like, chess game, that's so boring. But it is not if you think about how complex it is. And what we're going for is pure complexity of something that is a lot harder to build and pull off, especially as a team, than, as I said before, like a Yelp clone or something, which when you start out might sound really complicated, but for senior developer, technical hiring manager, the CTO, the VP of engineering, whoever is going to hire you at the end, that's not that challenging. But if you say like, hey, I built a chess game inside a Rails application, they will pause for a second and think, how would I do that? There's so many rules in chess to enforce. It's definitely a challenge. And then the conversation in your technical interview shifts, right? Shifts from, okay, great, interesting, run me through that a little, let's go on the whiteboard and solve some coding challenges, to how did you implement feature X? How did you check for checkmate? How did you do that and detect that a checkmate situation was happening on the chessboard? And that's something that you can then push the conversation and not only show how you work together with a team, but also show all your code, your more complex code, off in a really nice and organized way. And that is actually one of the key things that you take out of the group project, right? So the group project goes through, you have weekly meetings, check-ins, you have stand-ups where you report on your progress, you have what's called a Trello board where you have individual features that you need to get through, from starting out to in development, through testing, through code review, and then launching it live. So you go through that whole life cycle of the developer. And then at the very end, you're going to have several what's called pull requests, which we're thinking about as buckets of organized code that you can show when you start looking for jobs out there, right? You can say, hey, here's my code, here's my business logic, my algorithms that I integrated for this pull request. Here are all my tests, right? We're talking about test-driven development before, how important that is. Here are all my tests. Here's how I integrate that into the Rails application. And here's the code review that I received, all the comments from the other developers on my team, what I should improve. And here's then how I reacted to that feedback with code to make my application even better. If you're thinking about that, that is what happens every single day. Right now, our developers here at the Firehose project, they're working on pull requests, having code reviews, pushing new code live, so we're having better features for you. This morning when we pushed the new intro course out, that was exactly what happened. So that is pretty much the program, and it's 22 weeks. How you're starting out, intro course the first 2 weeks, and then 22 weeks of the full program. All through that, you have all the support you can imagine, right? We have mentorship sessions, one-on-one mentorship sessions. You meet with your mentor, and that mentor is there to challenge you more, help you out and challenge you, right? Go through your code, pair program with you. That is exactly the same experience as if you were on a job and you would have a senior developer or your CTO or your technical team lead, somebody with years of industry experience and experience being on the job, look over your shoulder and help you out solve complex problems. And that's why we have these mentorship sessions. They kind of work as a step equation. Every time you have a mentorship sessions, you kind of hear with your skill level and you go boom, one up to the next level. Then we also have our forum, right? Q&A forum. If you're an intro course, you're already used to it. You ask a question there. If you're stuck, you're spinning your wheels, we help you out there, answer your question to make sure you're never stuck for very long and you get to the next step and you can continue, right? There's no reason waiting hours and hours and hours for spending hours spinning your wheels on a simple like missing comma or missing @ sign. That's why we have the forum. So you spend your time where it matters, which is learning new skills, learning new coding skills, going through another algorithm, building another feature on a web application. So that's pretty much the whole program that we're having. Our job support ties right into that, right? So the first thing that's really important is that you have all the skills so you can present yourself as a web developer, right? And I talked about the pull requests, right? Having built something really complex as part of a team, that is so crucial. And then we obviously have resources on where to look for jobs, how to look for jobs, how to do your resume. We have mock interviews, right? We have the whole gamut of what you need to be prepared to not only send out the applications at the places where you should do it, but also how to actually brand yourself as a developer. And we're actually redoing that and adding a whole new section to that, being job ready, being job prepared, like a whole section that goes in depth about all of this and even touches on design. So you can polish up your portfolio page a lot more in all the apps that you're building throughout the application. All right, I think that covers the main part of what I wanted to get across, which is like how intercourse works, why we're doing this, how intercourse works, the web applications that you're building in the full program. Then on the other side, the algorithms and the data structures that you're gonna learn. So that goes together into the Agile Team Project. And knowing that the Agile Team Project is so important because that's exactly what we're doing in the real world. Now, I want to go in and look if I've got some question. I know a few of you already submitted some, so give me a moment here, see if I got some. Okay, there's a few coming in. If you have any, feel free to shoot them my way right now, and I go through that. Okay, so here's a question I get a lot, which is, why are we different, right? There's a lot of programs out there. Some are cheaper, some are more expensive, some maybe have mentors, some don't. Why are we different, right? And I think I always answer that with like a similar question. There's like 3 reasons, right? Why, if you go onto Quora or if you go onto like Course Report, our students give us such high reviews, or even on our Facebook page, right? And that's like, the first is the depth of the curriculum. I don't think there's another program out there that has like 900 plus hours of content where a mentor also helps you, right? So if a lot of content on our platform, but it goes also really deep, right? Starts with the fundamentals and it goes really deep. And what I mean by deep is like, we have algorithms, we have data structures, we build pretty complex web applications that actually impress senior software engineers. That depth of curriculum matters because you want to go deep into your knowledge and actually be a master at Ruby, Rails, and then also JavaScript, add that on top. Our mentors, I would say, is a key differentiator, right? These are all senior web developers and senior software engineers from places like Shopify, eBay, PayPal, Y Combinator Techstars, startups like Product Hunt. And these are people that are pushing the envelope right now, and you get to be taken under the wing by one of our senior developers. And that is something, as I said before, is that kind of step equation where every mentor session you have, you'll be challenged. You want to build your own idea as a passion project on the side, our mentors can help you with that as well. They know their stuff, and they've been doing that and having junior web developers professionally under their wing for years. So having you on top of that is awesome for them. They love that, and they love teaching, and they know how to explain stuff. So I think being under the wing of a senior web developer is crucial. The last thing, maybe not last least, but our student community is amazing, right? We have hundreds of students that are helping each other out. Some of them are in our ambassador program where they actually help people out with technical questions. We have our Slack channel, which is a chat room kind of place. If you don't know, Slack is a really cool tool where people talk about all the time, help each other, organize themselves to jump on pair programming sessions where they work on a problem together, where they have group learning sessions. We have lightning talks where all of our students come together about once a month, once every 6 weeks, and talk about technical topics, right? That's the same as if you were to go to a Ruby or Rails conference. That's what our students are organizing. And I try to be there every single time, and I'll learn something new every single time, because a student may have gone into a tool that I've never used, and they present, here's this new tool called Briar, here's a new tool called CodeShip or Travis CI for continuous integration. Here's how to implement that with the Rails framework. And it's really interesting. Or here's how you can think as a developer about design, because I used to be a designer and now I'm going towards being a developer, and here's what I can teach developers about design. So it's really interesting, and our students doing that is super awesome. On top of that, they also have several open source projects where they work together, and that's another thing that helps your resume, makes you stronger in the job hunt if you work together with other developers on open source projects. So our students maintain currently two open source projects, and every student is invited to be part of that, build some features on top of that, and that helps you. And that also makes the community keep going and growing after the program is over, right? All of you guys have access to the current curriculum for life. So that means you can always come back. And we see that so often that students that graduated like a year and a half, 2 years ago, they come back to the curriculum, look something up, and then actually use it on their job, right? So it's like this massive online learning resource and library that you can use and you always can come back to. I think that was a long question, but a long answer, but I hope it answered the question. So I have another question here. Let me see. Okay, Rena answered like 5 questions here. Okay, I go through most of them, all right? So I'm still working on my coding exercises. What happens if some of the code exercises do not get fully approved? Okay, so I think Rena, you are in the intro course. So basically, if you work through your coding challenges and whoever reviews them, I vaguely remember, I think Ben reviewed your coding challenges, then refactor your code and submit it again, right? Ben's giving you feedback. That's what we're here for, to go and make your code better and then make you pass. So if you ask for feedback, if you ask for improvements and we say, hey, you know, X, Y, Z would be better, it's exactly what happens in the real world, right? You have your code, you bring it up for review, and somebody says, hey, you know what I want to improve is like, can you cut these 5 lines here, condense them a little bit? Can you move this feature over there in this file so it's a bit cleaner, right? That's pretty much what we're doing on a micro level here in the intro course. So if they're not fully approved, try to refactor them, submit them again, and then we'll probably go through that. And there's not like a limit where you can do that, right? It's not like you have one shot, and if you don't, then hey, this is a learning process, and we totally understand how that works. So, okay, do prospective students get to interview, speak with a mentor before starting? That's always a tough one, because we don't know when you actually approve them, when would you start, right? So there's several ways we can do that if you want to speak to a mentor. First of all, I mentored a lot of students. Happy to talk with me if you want to. The way we actually match our students with mentors is like, we used to have it like, you could choose your mentor. There was a picture and there was a bio, and you could go through and pick whoever you wanted. That was your mentor. What happened was, whichever mentor had the coolest picture with a cool hat on, sunglasses, and palm trees in the background, all the students wanted. And we were always asking why. Like, oh, I want to be as cool as that mentor. And we're like, but the background of that mentor doesn't match your goals. So we just started switching things up. And we actually, when you start the program, we ask you for your coding background, and we ask you for your personal goals, right? Professional and personal goals. And then we have your performance of the intro course, we have your goals, we have your background, we have your time zone, a whole bunch of other variables, and we have that equally on the other side of the mentor. And then we actually do matching, right? And that matching worked out so much better than having students choose based on a picture and a short bio. Again, everyone who had the coolest background got the most requests for students. And oftentimes that was like not really the best match. Obviously, if you're not happy with your mentor, you can send us a quick email and we switch it to the mentor. But usually our success rate of matching by now is so high that our mentors are really happy and that our students are really happy. The other reason why we're doing this matching is because depending on your goals, you want to have a mentor who, if you say, you know, I want to work for a smaller company with like maybe like a small dev team of like 5 to 10 developers, you want to work together with a mentor who works at a company right now who actually works with 5 to 10 developers together. If you say like, oh, I'm looking more like a bigger company, then you want to work together with a bigger company mentor like PayPal, you know, or eBay, where there's hundreds of developers, because they can give you a lot more insight in the interview process, how daily developer workflow works there. So if you want to talk to a mentor, we can figure that out, but it's probably best if you first get approved and then actually pick your start date so we know which mentor is available at that point in time. And I think we have over 100 mentors right now working with us and being on our platforms. It's always hard to like balance that and knowing like who would be available this week, next week. Okay, there's some more. What happens if a student gets stuck doing the program and falls behind? That's a great question. What happens then is like, so we have several ways of actually, A, we need to see that, and B, we need to act on it, right? So the way is like we set you up with the weekly goals, like you see in the intro course, right? That you can check, go through. We also have a timeline that you can orientate yourself not only on a dashboard, but also like in more detail of what you should achieve every single week. What we also have on the, so if you realize you're falling behind there, it will show you really clearly like, hey, you're a bit behind, time to catch up. So you probably want to put a bit more time into it and maybe see if you can catch up by yourself. What we also have is we have something called weekly quizzes. They're weekly because they're pretty big. It will take you a few hours to complete them. And these are things that you should know at that point in the program when we send you the quiz on how to do it. You can do the quizzes, you can look up other resources, you don't have to memorize any information, you can Google, you can do whatever you want, but you should be able to build this. It could be like, hey, build a simple web application that does X, Y, Z, and do it without asking for help in a forum or your mentor, and then submit it for code review, and we review that. Any other app that you build, we review as well and look through your code and give you feedback. So if we notice that you're not going to submit the quizzes, or your code in the quiz is not really that good, and we notice that your code in your web apps is not really that good, and you're actually behind on your timeline, we'll have a conversation, figure out what's going on. You'll jump on a call with me, with one of our students advisors, and we figure out what works here. Are you not putting in enough time? Is something not clear? How can we help you? Do you want to pause the program, go something else? Have a few more foundational lessons to go through first before coming back with us. And that's usually a one-on-one conversation. But usually that doesn't happen all that often, because if you can go through our intro course and solve all that, you're in pretty good shape. There's a lot of students who never are able to complete the intro course because they're not ready yet to join our full program, right? So if you get through the intro course, you should give yourself a pat on the back, because that's a pretty good achievement, and not a lot of students actually make it through. So hopefully that puts it a little bit in perspective. Okay, okay, besides the intro course, what other resources? Cool, awesome, thumbs up if you do Stack Overflow already and reviewing some other resources. A few things I would recommend. There's RubyMonk. Last I heard a few weeks ago, that page was down for some reason. Maybe it's up again, I haven't checked. RubyMonk is really good, but I would focus on pure Ruby skills, right? Don't focus on like necessarily building something. That is what will have the biggest dividends for you if you focus on your Ruby skills. So RubyMonk is pretty good. There's also Chris Pine's book, if I would remember that right now. Learn to Program, here we go. Chris Pine, Learn to Program. I think if you Google PDF, there is a free book, free version out there, but I just didn't say that. Chris Pine, Learn to Program. Find that, read that. That's more like a 30,000 foot view, so zoomed out of like concepts and how to think about programming. And then RubyMonk gets you into the weeds of actually writing code and writing like, you know, method, functions, loops, that kind of stuff. So I would definitely review that as well. And when you're in a full program, that's totally fine. There's like, you can still go through those resources if you want, but we have, it says sitting in 900 plus hours of content on our platform. So you definitely gonna be happy going through all of that. Okay, how does a job assistant prep me for the competitive market in San Francisco Bay Area? It's a really tough job market. Yep, so there are several ways of what we do. So first of all, like, you need the skills. If you're looking at 100% of what matters, it's like 90, 95% is that. You need to have the skills. And as I explained before, being part of the Agile Team Project, huge. Not a lot of other people have that, who especially graduate from coding boot camps. They have like, I built these 5 apps. And every hiring manager will be like, did you follow a tutorial, build them by yourself? And they're like, oh, some tutorial, this one I built by myself. I'm like, okay, that's also not interesting, because that's not what we're doing. We're not building individual apps by ourselves. We're working as a team on individual features, maybe. So having that, huge thumbs up, right? Being able to know how to present yourself. And then it's also how to brand yourself as a web developer, right? What do you put on your portfolio page? How do you highlight that? That matters a lot too. And what's the first email that you reach out? So we give you all of these resources. What we don't have, to be completely honest with you, we're not going to be, here's a job that you should apply, here's a job that you should apply, here's a job that you should apply. I believe you're smart enough to find these jobs yourself. We give you strategies on how to find them. There's so many job engines out there that will list hundreds of jobs that you can apply. There's a lot of other strategies as well of how to actually meet developers, be where they are and make those personal connections and network, and then hear about jobs that are oftentimes not advertised. So we teach you how to do that as well. So what we're doing is like focus heavy on the preparation of you being ready and actually having the skills, so somebody is actually really interested in talking to you, can imagine yourself working on their team. And then we also focus you on how you present yourself with your resume, how you present yourself, and where you can find these jobs, and how you find these jobs, and how you introduce yourself and get that going. I hope that answered your questions. I think those were all. Let me see if there's some more. I love it. Get a lot of questions. I think I have one more over here. Oh, yeah, here's another one. Like, how long have we been doing this, right? Good question. I think, who was this? Johnny asked this. Great question. How long have we been doing this, right? We started this like teaching in-person classes, right? We got invited by a lot. That is me, my co-founder, Ken. If you go on a blog, I'm pretty sure you read a few of his blog posts and a few of his thoughts. The two of us taught at Harvard Business School, at Carnegie Mellon, at Babson, at Brown, at Rhode Island School of Design. We flew out to Hawaii and taught at some high schools there, right? We flew around across the country. We got invited back to Harvard like 3 or 4 times to teach people web application development. And we taught hundreds of students in person, right? That's how we started. Being in the classroom, being educators that are really, real technical. And then we took all that knowledge that we gathered from how people actually learn, and we built our online program around that knowledge, right? That's the course. So that's why we can say with confidence that we engineered our program around making things click for you. And that, what I mean is that you get the best content at the right time when you go through our program. So started like 3 years ago, and we started teaching by a lot of in-person classes in New York, Boston, over here. So that's kind of how we started. I think that's pretty much everything. I hope this was helpful. I'll do one more quick check. I think I answered all the questions. Cool, awesome. This was a lot of fun. Everyone, I hope this was helpful to you. If not, you have my email address. Feel free to reach out to me. Email me with any follow-up questions. If you're into the course, thumbs up, you're already doing the right thing. Keep coding there and submit your challenges and ask questions in the forum if you need any other help. If not, I hope this was good. Thumbs up, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care now. Bye.